Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Alan Outlines. When last we left off, we were in the middle of trying to figure out what Act 4 was for Opera the Opera, an outline. If you recall, this is a modern opera about a writer writing, because that's the easiest way to start things. Of course, all of these may change, including the characters and what have you. An outline is only as stable as it needs to be, and if you need to change things, well, as you write them, you will change things. And then you'll change them as you edit and revise and polish and all that good stuff. So we have 48 pages of this? Okay, well, some of it's because the text is unusually large, which will change, but still, this is a rather long outline. A lot of my notes are coming on here to the stage, and there's Act 4. As Peter tries to get the people to love who they should. Now, you might notice that my notes that I'd handwritten previously do not cover any of this part. That is correct. We are into open territory, open water, as it were. And now we've got a paddle for shore. Peter tries to get to, he wants Peter and Monique. And then there's Tiffany and Edward. That's what he wants. That's what Peter wants. And we're going to see what Peter is going to try to get. Text and the appearance of now, sorry, Edward and Peter are not interchangeable. Common mistake, common mistake. All right. So here we go. All right. So it's a casting call. Now there's a couple different ways they can do this. This is going to be an open call, specifically. Lots of wannabes and amateurs. Doesn't mean they're not good. It does mean that they're not professionals yet. And that means it's a lot of possibilities for comedy, because actors can be very funny when they're kind of failing. All right. So we open with an empty stage. Who should we have on there? Monique is the obvious choice. Yes, there we go. A song, because this is an opera, and as we've covered before, operas require singing. Generally, a lot of singing to cover certain topics, singing to cover characters, singing to just move the plot along so that the actors can get changed into other costumes off stage, while others are singing on the front. A song. Here it begins. The start of the thing. Everyone gets a chance to throw their hat in the ring. That is a horrible rhyme. Excellent. I know we're opening strong when I've got something really bad, because I can fix things that are bad. If it was kind of mediocre to good, I'd be surprised and wary at myself and wonder, how can I fix this without destroying it? And the answer is, usually you can't. Usually you can pull something out of there and then use that to edit something decent in there. But it's harder to fix things that are good, ironically enough. All right, everyone should throw their hat in the ring. Actors and actresses file in, papers in hand, scripts in hand. No, let's not have the scripts in hand. They're dressed in theater casual. Whatever that might happen to be, specifically, they'll be dressed in that. All right. Tiffany arrives and starts passing out scripts. Normally this would be the work of an assistant or something, but she feels a personal connection. And this lets us Monique's changing view on Tiffany. There's the writer. There's the scripts. Mips, tips, whips, tips. She has eyes for Peter. And nips. What rhymes with scripts? That's horrible. Moving on. Okay. There's the writer. There's the script. She has eyes for Peter and often trips. Do I do when Peter ignores her? What do I do? I have to break up with Peter. Because she's going to have to. No favoritism will grace my stage. I don't know what the next rhyme is. Oh boy, we're in totally uncharted territory, aren't we? No favoritism will grace my stage. And other rhyme here. Moving on. So she knows that she's going to have to break up with Peter. And then we go to, there's Tiffany handing out scripts, talking with actors, sings, here's the start, life and adventure, fame and fortune, and all that grandeur. Give it up all today if Peter would just look my way. And we transition to Peter's entrance. He's the cock of the walk. A part he's definitely to get. Here we are. My favorite place. Shoot. My favorite place. Rhyme here. A small one, but pleasant on my face. Now to settle in with darling Monique and get Tiffany to bed a lawyer. Boy, that does not rhyme. We'll play into that. We'll lean into that. He realizes this rhyme. Hey, Tiffany, what rhymes with lawyer? Boyer. what? Crafts. I believe they craft arrows? Or bows. Bows. Crafts bows. They often craft arrows, but someone who specifically... Ah, well then. To the audience. Amused. Alright. Edward enters motorized. His song, Another Day Brightened by Another Day, Another Contract, but this time brightened by Monique. This, no, brightened by Tiffany. Let's not confuse characters here. That's a bane, because then you realize you've organized things in such a strange way that it just doesn't make sense anymore. And then you have a confusing movie because characters have switched around or previous existing relationships are no longer intact and they don't account for it. Like a character forgetting that a different character had tortured them at some point, which you see occasionally in long-running shows where there's a lot of strange interactivity. Deep Space Nine is what I'm thinking of. The Odo and Garrick bits, where Garrick in fact tortures Odo at one point, and then they just kind of forget about it for the rest of it because, it's a really good episode where that happens. To be honest, a lot of character in depth. It just doesn't carry over well. But this time brightened by Dearest Tiffany. My stalwart, afford her an epiphany. That's almost good. It's dangerously almost good. Alright. And then there's my inability to spell the word presence. This is a long-running issue with me. The S and the C keep wanting to trade places with me. So here we go. Let's zoom out because that's great. Four characters in play. Sliding about each other, trying to press the wrong people. Edward sees Peter to Tiffany his way, appreciates it. Monique tries to steer Edward her way, but is blocked and annoyed, just as tensions, Tiffany keeps trying to get Peter's talk with her, and then just as tensions and to hit the limit, enter Mr. Ming. I told you previously that I was going to bring him in to break things up rather than have it devolve to a lot of squabbling and name calling and what have you. Hair pulling and lighting things on fire if you want to go that way. So he's the investor. Everyone defers to him. Peter convinces him to take a small part in the production. Don't worry about availability. That is what understudies 4. Understudies are actors who step in, who practice to step in case the lead a lead character drops out for whatever reason. People get sick after all, or have things happen, or get arrested, or what have you. Acting is a difficult business. And so understudies often have to step in. They're usually not as good or polished as the primary actor, because if they were, they'd probably be in the role. But they can step in and perform yeoman work for it. Let's see. Don't worry about availability. That's what understudies are for. Monique allows this. Tiffany hates it. Edward worries about liability. Okay. So, how are we going to end end Act 4? Mr. Ming will take the part. I need something to go off the rails here. What do we have to go off the rails here? To set us into a dicey Act 5. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. Maybe it's enough that everyone's on edge. Okay. Has had enough. No, she's not yet had enough. She will have enough with Peter, but she can't exactly fire him now. So, what do we have here? Edward tells Tiffany that he'd like to have a drink with her. To go over details. Of course, she's still oblivious, and there can't be attorney-client relationships. Oh no. No, of course not. I'd have to wait until things are wrapped up. I don't know if this is true. That might be a sticking point. Given to another lawyer. He suggests another lawyer. Monique thinks he's leaving her. She gets upset. Peter tries to console, but she states her regret. And so everyone's unhappy. Good. If they were happy, it would be boring. So then Mr. Ming declares he'll fund the project only if you keep it all as it is. We're locked into Act 5. What numbers were I using for that? That's yeah. Here we go. All right, so Act 5. What are we going to do for Act 5? Obviously, the show must go on. Literally. And kind of like a noise is off, we're going to be backstage with the cast and crew, etc. I don't know how to stage this. Noise is Off does a good thing where they show you the front of the play, and then they show you the back of the play, and then they show you the front of the play again in different acts as things develop. So you get an idea of what's going on behind the scenes, and then how that translates to the audience out front. We're backstage with the cast and crew, etc. Costumes and such. It looks good. We are opening night. Edward arrived to give Tiffany flowers. The flowers, she sets them aside, and later Monique sees them, and the card, which is from Edward without Tiff's name, thinks Edward has come around. Tiffany is overly nervous and headed for a breakdown, and then tries to console her, but she declares her love for him. But we hardly know each other. Times why don't you like Edward? Like Edward. Tiffany doesn't get it. Peter steps onto the stage and sings a song Tiffany wrote. Okay. This needs to go up a little further. A little bit of there. Peter gets hold of herself, sings a duet with him. Call her lines merging with his. This is, to be honest, a great writer trope because we live in our own heads all the time and things work out according to how we want them to work out because they're all in our heads, whereas life is a little more difficult, to say the least. People don't do what you expect or want, which is what makes them so fascinating. Gets hold of herself, sings a duet with him, her lines merging with his, though he doesn't know it. Off stage, she declares her love for him, but we are Monique overhears, calls Peter a bastard, and overrated and such, and we go the production isn't going well, so we move on to okay, how are we going to put this to a head? Intermission. Edward arrives, and we will do ignores Monique, but she's not having any of it. You talked about transferring lawyers to have a relationship with the former client. How about me? What's wrong with me? He blinks. You're a friend. Alright, so it all falls apart. I don't know how it's going to fall apart, but that's the beginning of how it all falls apart. Arguing. Songs. Yes, a four-sided song. Whatever that's called. A quartet? I don't know. That doesn't sound right. Anyway. Back and forth. Until Mr. Ming arrives for his part. The show will go on. Curtain rises. Songs on stage speak to the heart. Tiffany is overjoyed. Edward is annoyed, can't be in the audience. Peter loves to sweep out. Monique sighed. It all won't fall apart until the end. Then it does, but it does fall apart. Then Peter returns. Tiffany has a spat with him, and now if I really want to do, we'll have the destruction of the set. Him, and somehow the set is destroyed. That gives us to later, amid the ruins, criminations, Monique disowns Peter from her bed. Just a toy. Go off and play. Peter notes that the reviews are in and that we brought down the house. He struts off to celebrate without Monique. Yes. All things pass. Goodbye, my sweet. And see you next performance. Okay. Edward goes after him. It was good to have known Tiffany. It is too early for anything. Too early for breakfast. Too late for dinner. My timing needs work. He's not going to have Tiffany in any way part of his life just because of the situation it is, and he's accepted that. This leaves Tiffany and Monique. They patch up their friendship. Screw them. We'll get along. Always done. Goes after him to enjoy a night out. Invited, of course. The two are friends. We'll get along as we've always done. And so, amid the ruin of a performance, they sit, commiserate. Peter wasn't good enough for you. Trust me. And Tiffany will note, Edward needs time. Yeah. A last song about the endurance of friendship. Warms the heart rather than cook the soul. Because friendship lasts while relationships may not endure. It's the number of friends I've ever had to shy away from are very few compared to other relationships, and that seems to be true. For whatever reason, it seems to be that way. A last comedic bit with Mr. Ming. He'll come on. Have you seen the reviews? He's happy. And sings a final song. Bring all the actresses on stage for one last, there's probably a term for this in opera, and I'll look it up later, whatever. For one last song. Alright, wishing the audience the joy of the performance. And the memory of an excellent night. Finny. And we're ended. That's the outline. Is it stable enough? Probably not. Am I going to be able to continue this? Probably not. In a written form, the romantic part of things is probably stable enough that I can move it into something else if I had to, if I wanted to strip out the songs or what have. But I'm going to let this sit for a while. You generally want to let things cool down so you can get some perspective on it, whereas in the heat of the moment things seem to work. In retrospect, they may not. That's important with almost every work. You have to be able to let it sit for however long it takes your brain to be able to re-engage in an unbiased fashion. If you think you've written the best thing since sliced bread, it's best to step back and put it in the toaster for a while. So, that was episode 3 of Alan Outlines. I hope you had a good time watching me write the outline. Have a good time. And a good day.